Bill.
Hey, guys. How you doing, Greg? Appreciate you having me on.
Yes, I almost said hello to you. We walked in together at the Team Impact Gala on Saturday night, but when I see people that we have talked about on the radio, I'm afraid to talk to them in person.
No, I get it. I understand. We both have jobs to do.
Well, listen, speaking of jobs to do, I'm assuming a little bit different for you this year because you're not feeling the pressure that a Gerard Mayo or an Elliott Wolf or anybody who's going to be in a draft room this evening is feeling. So you have a different perspective on it tonight.
Yeah, definitely a different perspective, just from not being there and being able to observe it from afar and really just been a lot of focus over the last 3 months on Boston College and getting this thing off the ground here. So, but yeah, definitely a little bit different when you're sitting outside and looking in.
With and it's all speculation, and we've been speculating about it for months here. But with your experience there last year and kind of what you know about the organization minus Bill Belichick, what's your guess at what they do tonight? Do you assume they want a quarterback?
Look, I think that the one thing about what's going on there now is, again, I'm not there, but just having worked with a lot of those guys, Elliott Wolf and Matt Groh and Pat Stewart, those guys are really good at what they do, and they have spent hours upon hours looking at their own team, their own roster, and looking at the draft. And I know that the New England Patriots will always, build the team through the draft. And so I'm sure that they'll, when it comes time to make a pick or do whatever they're going to do, they're going to have a very, very educated choice as to what they do. And look, at the end of the day, I think one of the big things, guys, is when you draft for the New England Patriots, I think it's important to draft not only for the team, but for the region. Like you go out and you draft a guy like a couple of years ago, Ramondre Stevenson. What a great draft pick for the region. You know what I mean? Like a big tough back that was a great player. And there's so many other examples. Obviously, you go back to drafting Tom Brady, right, in the 6th round. That worked out fantastic, obviously. But over the years, there's been some unbelievable draft picks that represented the New England Patriots and represented the region. And I think that's what really is important about tonight.
Bill, if they don't go with a quarterback, like you said, you worked so closely with a guy like Bailey Zappi. Between Bailey Zappi and Jacoby Brissett, will the Patriots be okay next season if you get Marvin Harrison Jr., but you've got Jacoby Brissett and Bailey Zappi as your quarterbacks?
I think so, Courtney. I think that, like, when you look at those two guys, Jacoby has more experience than Zapp, but they're both very, very good guys. They're very coachable guys. They have talent. They're going to understand what Coach Van Pelt wants to do, and I think you can win with those guys. We won a couple games with Zapp. He managed the game very well. Worked very, very hard. He's a young player. He's got a long way to go. And then obviously Jacoby's been in the league for a long time and has won some meaningful games wherever he's been. So I don't think there's any doubt. And plus, like, I think you have to remember, like I know you guys do, is that, they have a great defense. And the defense is one of the top 5 defenses in the National Football League. So I think if they get a quarterback that gets in there and doesn't turn it over and does a good job of managing the game properly, they're going to be fine.
Billy, when you look at, you were able to kind of turn around a program like Penn State. Now you're at Boston College, completely different era because of the NILs and the transfer portals. What do you think is the, biggest adjustment that you have to make this go around now that you're back in college football versus when, you were back at Penn State in 2012 and 2013?
Yeah, that's something that through my career I've been basically 50% in college and 50% in the NFL. This will be my 32nd year in coaching, and so over time, college football has definitely changed a lot. Wig, like when you think about when I was at Penn State, we definitely had to deal with the transfer portal while I was at Penn State, but we didn't have to deal with NIL. And I think one of the things about BC is, we're going to be in the NIL game, but we have so many other things to sell here, and we have an unbelievable degree that we offer at Boston College. We're in the city of Boston, which is one of the greatest cities in the world. We have an unbelievable campus here, a beautiful campus, and a smaller school where, you have about 9,000 undergrads. So we have a lot more to sell other than NIL. And so we have to do a great job of targeting the right guys that fit Boston College, that fit, the tough type of football player that we want, but also fit us in so many other ways. We give back to the community, right? We do a ton with the community relative to our players here at BC. So we have to do a good job of targeting the right guys and bring those guys in here.
Billy, it is awesome to have you at BC. When Hafley left, I was wondering if we would even have a football program. And great to have you there. Just curious as to what was if there was one thing that got you into, the building and convinced you that you could be successful as the head coach of Boston College.
I thought a lot about this. My wife's a 92 grad, Colleen, a 1992 grad at Boston College. And I also grew up in an era when BC football was in its heyday, right? I was a teenager when BC was, when Flutie was here and they were finished fourth in the country and Coach Bicknell was here. And, I've always loved Boston College. I didn't get in 1988 when I graduated from high school. I finally got in 2024. You know what I mean? So I believe in what BC is all about. We've really gotten off the ground here in a good way. Our guys are buying into how we do things. We had a really good spring practice. Our recruiting, I think, is going real well. We've had a lot of the top guys, local guys in Massachusetts, New England guys, East Coast guys. And so, I think at the end of the day, we have to attack it the way we believe it. We believe in the place. We believe in what BC is all about. And I think if we go about that every single day, we're going to have a chance to win at Boston College. I really believe that.
Bill O'Brien is our guest this morning on draft day. Bill, going forward, is Bill Belichick back to being a head coach in the NFL, or is he on the Manning cast?
I can't wait to see him on the Manning cast. I can tell you that. I can't wait for that. I will be watching that in the background as I watch on my own film to get ready for games. I'll be watching the Manning cast. But no, I think he's definitely, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not, I don't talk to him every single day, but I believe he's going to coach again. I really believe that. I mean, Bill's a great football coach, and a lot of us, Greg, owe a lot to Bill. Bill, gave us opportunities, promoted us, taught us a lot about the game, not just the scheme, but, the evaluation of guys, how to build a team, the strategy from week to week. A lot of different things went into him promoting us, but he taught us a lot. And so we owe Bill a lot. And I would love to see Bill back on the sideline again, and I'm sure he will be.
Bill, just back to BC for a second, because since my time there, I was there 2010 to 2014. It doesn't feel like BC's had an offensive identity. And I know that during the spring, you were saying that it seemed like the defense was one step ahead of them. Are you hoping to find that identity this season? And have you seen any movement there? Anything to get me excited going into the fall?
Yes. We are definitely going to get you excited about BC in our offense. I think that one of the things that we have to do here is we have to be an exciting offense to watch. We have to be a team that people want to come see. So, we're going to be a team that throws the ball down the field. We have to be balanced. We have to be able to run the ball when we have to, but we have to be a team that has to create some chunk plays down the field. And I believe that's what we're going to do. When I was out of college football, I was the head coach of the Texans for about almost 7 years. The game changed. And when I went to Alabama, I learned a lot about how the game had changed. And so what we're doing at BC is basically a combination of the offense we ran at Alabama in conjunction with the foundation of what we did in New England over the years. So I think that it'll be an exciting offense. We have to have a great training camp and hit the ground running when the season starts. But I think that if you guys can get down here to some games and bring your friends with you, you'll see an exciting offense.
This is all speculation, clearly, but that's what we're here for. So you're in that Patriots room tonight, back there with the organization, and I think we all figure that Caleb Williams is going number one. You're going to take a quarterback. Who do you, with that number 3 pick, who do you, Bill O'Brien, like?
One of the things for me is I really have only watched these guys on TV, but I've definitely seen them, and I've actually been in a game against Jaden Daniels when I was at Alabama, and he was at LSU. He beat us at LSU my second year there. Great overtime game, and Drake May is a guy that was recruited heavily by Alabama before I got there. These guys are great players. Look, at the end of the day, if Drake May's sitting there at number 3 and these guys feel good about that, that's, the guy that can lead them into the next. Because this is a pick. When you pick a quarterback, guys, as you know this better than me, you're picking a guy for the next, hopefully, 10, 12, 15 years. And so it's a big pick. And so if they feel really good about Drake May and his ability to play in the Northeast and to be a quarterback that can develop and get better and better and be a great teammate, then that's what they should do. But at the end of the day, I've only seen these guys on TV, and it'll be exciting to see what they end up deciding to do.
Wiggy gets all negative about a guy like J.J. McCarthy. Because it seems like the Patriots are interested in him. Where do you stand on J.J. McCarthy?
I mean, just watching him again play this past year. I mean, he's a winner. I think that and the other thing about JJ is when you have a guy like Jim Harbaugh that really believes in the guy, and he made him his starting quarterback at Michigan, there's got to be something to be said about that because Jimmy's a really good coach. So, JJ won a national championship at Michigan, beat some really good teams on the way to doing it, Ohio State, Alabama, and played really well in some big moments. So, we'll see what happens. But, it's interesting. The whole draft experience for me was an interesting experience, and it's hard to, it's not an exact science. So you got to go with what you believe and try to make the right pick.
Well, it's interesting when you say the winner thing because guys like Scheim, the professor over there, say it's all about talent. As that is of interest to any coach. Is that a guy who has won his whole entire career essentially?
Yeah, I think that obviously it's about talent. I mean, you have to have, at that position, talent, anticipation, accuracy. You have to be a great person. I mean, you're leading the building. You have to be a guy that can command a huddle, that can be really good in the locker room, and be there every single day for your teammates. That's a big deal. But at the end of the day, it's also about, in my opinion, winning. When you're a winner and you've been a quarterback that's directed a team that's won championships, no matter who that is, I think that's a big part of your value as a player.
So, Bill, this weekend you should hear possibly a couple BC names get called and make their way to the NFL. Christian Mahogany, to me, is one of the guys that kind of stands out. If you were meeting with a scout, I know you haven't been at BC all that long just yet, but if you were meeting with a scout, how would you sell Christian Mahogany to an NFL scout?
Yeah, I really like Christian. I didn't coach Christian, Scheim, but I watched a lot of film on him when I got here and watching all of last year's games. He's a big, tough guy. He can move. He can pull. He's athletic. He's definitely a guard. I do think he would, in a pinch, he would be able to maybe bump out and play some tackle. I've met him. He's a really good guy. He's a looky in the eye type of guy. He's a BC guy, and I think he would be a really good addition to anybody's team.
Bill, I know you talked about kind of a little bit your offense being like what you had at Alabama and a little bit of New England. Obviously, you have a guy at BC and Castellanos that is a good athlete that can run, something a little bit different than you had last year, but very similar to what you had in Alabama, and I want to say Bryce Young. What are some of the things that, that he brings to the table, if he is the guy to be the starter this year, that you're going to try to utilize him to do?
Tommy's a very interesting player. I've gotten to know him over the last 3 months. He transferred here from Central Florida, and he's a guy that is very instinctive, Wig. Like, he can see things. He's not that big, but he can see through the trees, which that's the trait that Bryce Young had. Bryce was able to see, through the 6'5" defensive lineman to find that window to throw the ball. Tommy has that ability, and Tommy can run. So I think nowadays, off-schedule plays are really, really important in a lot of offenses, and Tommy can do that. So if it's not there, he can take off and make plays with his feet, and he knows when to do that. He has a good knack for doing that. And I think the other thing about Tommy is he's really bought into what we're doing, right? He's really studied hard. He's had a good spring. And, we feel good about it. We have another guy, Grayson James, that had a really good spring game, who's another transfer. He transferred in here from, I think, Florida International. But he's a really good player, too. And he got better as the spring went on and ended up on a high note at the spring game. So we have a couple guys there that we think are really good players. We're glad we have them.
One from me, Bill, and this question is from Mack Island, where I still reside occasionally. 3 years from now, is Mac Jones in the NFL, and is he maybe even a starter in the NFL?
I believe he will be, Greg. I do. I think in the right environment, surrounded by the right people, I think Mac has a future. Look, when you look back at last year, it was a tough year. It was a tough year for everybody, especially offensively. If we could go back and do it over again, there'd be some things we would do better. Everybody was in it together, though. It wasn't one guy that you can blame. We all have to take a part in that. When you've been coaching as long as I have, you're going to have some really good years. We've had a lot of good years. We had, a few bad ones. Last year was not great. And Mac will come back. Mac's a tough guy. He's a very smart guy, very intelligent guy. Comes from a good family, and I think he's in a good spot in Jacksonville.
Bill, why do you think that it didn't pan out here in New England? Was it more of a mental thing where maybe he couldn't take the pressure, or what was the disconnect?
I think it probably obviously be a better question for Mac. In the end, I think that like I said, Courtney, I think it's hard to pinpoint one thing, right? The NFL is very, very difficult. It's a year-to-year business, right? Maybe one year you have a really good year and the next year you don't. And, it's hard to pinpoint why that is. And I think if you just stick to it and you figure out what you can do to be better, whether it's a coach or a player, and you really hone in on those things, it's really about improvement. The league is about improvement on a day-to-day, on a year-to-year basis. And if you can really learn from your mistakes, then you have a chance to correct those, and you're in the right environment with the right people around you relative to who you are, then you got a chance to really be a successful player. And I think Mac still has that chance.
Will you be there for Tom Brady night on June 12th? And just for old time's sake, will you ask Tom to yell at you?
I know. He did yell at me a lot. I yelled at him a few times too, but I'm definitely going to try to be there. My youngest son still apps Michael, who goes to Tufts. He's a freshman baseball player at Tufts. He still idolizes Tom. So, and Tom was always great to Michael, and so Colleen and Michael and I will try to be there and cheer for Tom, because that'll be a great night. That'll be awesome. That'll be very cool.
Well, listen, go ahead, Curtis.
I was just going to sneak in, Bill. You've been talking about the winning and all the great years, and Tom, I didn't see you on the Dynasty docuseries, and if you declined that was a brilliant move. So I just want to commend you if you chose not to be a part of that.
Yeah, no, I was not asked. Thank God I was not asked to be on the Dynasty.
That
oh
is
my
wild.
God. Yeah, no, I was not asked to be on the Dynasty, and I was grateful for that. I was actually a part of that other series that they did on Tom, his series, I think, which was like a 10-part series too. It was pretty cool to be a part of that, a couple of years ago. But no, I wasn't asked to be on the Dynasty, and I'm really happy about that.
Well, listen, I'm so glad that you were on with us this morning. Thanks for taking the time, and I think we hope to be able to do this every week during the season. So if you're in for it, we're in for it.
I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, I really do. I grew up loving, listening to sports talk radio in Boston, and you guys are an awesome show, and I really appreciate you guys. And I know you have a couple BC grads on that show, and I really appreciate their support, and really appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you.
Well, as long as you're winning, we will.
Yeah.
We'll be
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
All right, Bill O'Brien, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, I like Bill O'Brien. Good interview.